Claude Lévi-Strauss, French anthropologist. So this French anthropologist extended Saussure to anthropology. So this is how structuralism became a broad field. When we say structuralism, it started with linguistics, with Saussure in Swiss. Then it included linguistics. Then it included anthropology. So this is a theory. When we say theory, it can be applied to other fields as well in some contexts. So Lévi-Strauss, Lévi-Strauss, in his famous book, The Elementary Structures of Kinship, one of his famous books. So his methodology, structuralist methodology. So he studied kinship in general because he is more bothered about anthropology, study of humankind. And when we say humans, we have certain structures, right? Social structures and also norms. And he focused more on kinship, right? Whom do we marry, or our relationship with the mother, father, kind of a thing. And there is a chapter called The Marriage of Cousins in this book. The marriage of cousins, it differs from culture to culture. In some cultures, we marry our cousins. In some culture, they don't marry their cousins at all. And some culture, we can marry our cross cousins, not the immediate one. There are a lot of things. All right. So he talked about that. And this is actually a structuralist analysis. What is allowed and what is not allowed. In linguistic, certain sentence is allowed, all right, which is practicable. For instance, Chomsky said, a certain sentence is not allowed, all right? Avan vandal. I mean, whenever we speak in Tamil, we have this ending, suffix, all. It refers to feminine, not a male one. When we say avan, he, you have to go with some other ending, male ending, suffix, not this female suffix. So that is not allowed in Tamil, right? Similar way, in a culture or in a particular family, certain marriage is prohibited. You can't marry your sister, or you can marry something else, right? But you can, of course, on the one kind, you can marry a certain cousin. I mean, father's sister's daughter is okay, but father's brother's daughter is not okay. So one is more like a sister, another is marriageable cousin. So we have this concept of marriageable cousin, non-marriageable cousin. Both are cousins, sisters, but in a way. But one is allowed in this culture. But in other culture, it may not be allowed. Right? In Tamil, okay, or India, okay. But within religion, I think there are changes. So he talked about that. So cross cousin is to be distinguished from the prohibition of incest. And incest within family, you can't get married. Those days, okay, beginning, origin. They married their own sisters or brothers. Now, it is considered a negative relationship. So you can't think of an Oedipus kind of a thing, right? You can't marry your mother or sister. That is prohibited in this system, modern system. Then positive relationship, what is allowed? Like this sentence, all right? So this is allowed, okay? So this is how Claude Lévi-Strauss expanded that idea of structuralism to anthropology. Then he came up with this, some of his concepts. So one of his famous work, 1962, The Savage Mind. And he came up with this concept called bricolage. So C-O-L-A-G. When we say bricolage, it's a kind of your ability, competence. Okay. So your competence to create something with whatever you hand, whatever at hand. So for instance, primitive people. So when they travel, they don't carry everything with them. You know, when they travel, whatever they get, you know, they make a tent or, you know, they shelter and they move on. So whatever at hand, they had the ability to create something out of it. That ability, that means is called bricolage. You can remember the word art called collage. When we say collage, you put different things together, kind of a painting or a kind of art, that is collage. So that ability or this means is called bricolage. And Lévi-Strauss said, that's what the primitive mind had, the earlier people. Now the modern people, they do not go for this. They need some measurement to create something. So he came up with something called this word, bricoleur. B-R-I-C-O-L-E-U-R, bricoleur. The word now in French is called prior, primitive. So that is the basic meaning. What is the old sense of this word? When we say old sense, bricoleur, old meaning, It is associated with ball games, billiards, hunting, shooting, riding, especially its movement, some extraneous movement. So for instance, when you hit a ball, sometimes it doesn't go in the straight way. Sometimes there is a curve or it rebounds. Sometimes a dog strays, a horse swerves, no, moving away from your natural course. That is called bricoleur, from its direct course to avoid an obstacle, right? So you have that competence not to go straight. Okay, we have to move this side. So that is the basic meaning of bricoleur. Now, when we say bricoleur, current sense, it refers to someone who works with his hands or her hands, uses devious means compared to that of a craftsman. When we say a craftsman, right, an artist, they need certain measurements, like a modern engineer. When we ask an engineer, he will say this much quantity of cement or gravel or measurement, everything. But if you ask some ordinary mason without measurement, you will just go and build it. And that is bricoleur, earlier primitive mind. So people with this bricoleur mind or bricoleur, they have this task. What you give them something, whatever at hand, they create something out of it. It's like cooking. Sometimes only our mothers can do that, or some fathers. Sometimes we say, no, in order to do this, I need that one, this one, the modern chef. And sometimes there's nothing at home, some few things, and we create something out of food, out of things. So that is bricoleur. You create something with whatever is available, whereas engineer cannot do that. And what is this has to do with criticism? A critic is like that. A critic has nothing but words, right? So as I told you before, describing a language in your own language is tough. Describing a Tamil word in Tamil is tough. English word in English is tough. Similar way, look at the position of a critic. A critic has nothing but the text and has to comment on that. So which is tough. Whereas if you go across fields, you can easily describe. But describing words through words is tough. A bricoleur, a critic is like that. Whatever is available at hand with words, you have to come up with some idea about that particular text or across text. Okay. Then these are some of his famous works. The structural study of myth. So from the title, you can get to know his idea. The structural study of myth and totemism. Totemism. What is a totem? Totem, when it comes to primitive society, we had this pole, wooden pole, with something etched there. People worship it. All right. So that is called a totem worshipping, right? So he talked about that. Then 4 volumes collectively called mythologics. So number 1 is very important: the raw and the cooked. The raw and the cooked refers to nature versus culture. Raw, nature; cooked, culture. Okay. Then from honey to ashes, then the origin of table manners. See, this is how structuralism gets expanded. So we started off with linguistics. Now we are talking about anthropology and common everyday table manners. So if you are sitting at a table at hotel, so how do you behave? All right. Then the naked man. So this is a 4 collection. And this is one of his another famous work, Myth and Meaning. So if you're interested in Lévi-Strauss, maybe you can start with one of the books, maybe Myth and Meaning, right? It sounds simple or understandable.